Chapter 13. For the second time in the past 24 hours, my lips were inches from his. I could practically feel them against mine, moving so slowly at first until we both couldn't handle it anymore and were devouring each other. I curled my fingers into his chest and shut my eyes, wanting nothing more than to close the distance between us. He pulled me an inch closer, his cinnamon breath making my lips tingle. God, I had never wanted anyone more than him. Someone knocked on the door. "Danny," Trayvon said. "It's me." I dropped my head, resting my forehead against Eros's. For a moment, I enjoyed being this close to him, his fingers tickling my skin, the light hum of his breathing. Trayvon knocked again. I sighed, reluctantly leaving Eros standing alone in the kitchen, and walked to the door. Tell him what you need to tell him and send him on his way. Don't take his bullshit, Danny. I grasped the handle and opened the door. He stood there in his blue baseball cap, hands stuffed into his pockets. "I didn't think you'd answer." "I shouldn't have," I said. After he stepped into the apartment, Maria and Javier glanced over. Maria wrinkled her nose at him and turned back to the TV, muttering something under her breath to Javier. Javier chuckled lowly. Trayvon looked at them, then at Eros, who was now leaning against the counter, with his arms crossed over his chest. "Can we talk in private?" Trayvon asked. I nodded, gesturing for him to walk ahead of me to my room. When I passed Eros, he grabbed me by the wrist. "Remember what I told you the other night, Danny. Be happy." I know. I was about to turn to follow Trayvon, but I stopped myself. I didn't know how long I was going to be with Trayvon, and part of me needed to have my questions about what Eros said last night answered before I had the conversation with Trayvon. So I took a deep breath and asked, "What did you mean when you said you knew how it felt the other night?" He was quiet for a moment. "Danny, that's not something we should get into now. Maybe another day." I didn't like the sound of that, but I'd take it. That meant that maybe, just maybe, he'd let me in on his life someday. He'd show me a different side of him. Trayvon was sitting on my bed, forearms resting on his knees, running his hands over his hair. When I opened the door, he stood up. "Are you feeling better?" The candle was burning on the drawer, white smoke emitting from it. "You should have asked me that the other night, not now." "I know, and I'm sorry I didn't." "You should be." He sighed. "I don't want to fight with you." "Well, you should have thought about that before you accused me of faking it. I couldn't help that I puked everywhere. I didn't know that someone spiked my drink, and you thought I just, drank too much to get your attention?" "I was just angry. I know how stupid it was to say that. Nothing was going right that night." He closed his eyes. "Shit just kept happening. That's why I couldn't spend time with you." I crossed my arms over my chest. "You sure had time to talk to Samantha." "Yes, I did. I'm her boss. I have to make sure she does her job," he said. I heard his phone buzz in his pocket, but he didn't pull it out to check it for once. Instead, he reached for my fingers. "Are you jealous of her, Danny?" The candle crackled. "Should I be?" He raised his brows like he was surprised that I would even ask, but he's the one who brought it up. "No, why would you even think that? I don't understand." He paused. "In the past 5 years, have I ever given you the... You know what I don't understand? Why you even asked me to go to that damn party. You know I don't enjoy going out, and you weren't even there to see me." "I didn't plan on ignoring you all night. I had work to do," he said, his voice laced with annoyance. Yeah, but nothing." He raised his voice. I wanted you to have a good time with your friends for once. I wanted to show you off to everyone, and I pressed a hand into his chest, pushing him away. Stop treating me like an object. I'm not a car. I'm not your arm candy. My heart was racing. And even if you wanted to show me off to everyone, you never ask me out anymore. We haven't been out by ourselves in months. His brown eyes widened in anger. That's because you don't want to go out, he groaned and rubbed his hand across his face. Look, I'm sorry about being a jerk, but I can't be the only one willing to negotiate in our relationship. I could only imagine Dr. Yu smiling so freakishly wide at our argument, telling us both that disagreements were healthy, that negotiation was healthy, that trying new things was healthy. Can you try to be more willing to do things with me, Danny? And I'll work on myself for you, Trayvon asked, sitting on the bed and grabbing both of my hands. I took a deep breath. If Trayvon worked on himself, he could make me happy. He really could. But I didn't know if this was what I wanted anymore. I need some time to think, I said. Trayvon furrowed his brows and squeezed my hands tighter. My heart was breaking for us. Are you breaking up with me? He asked quietly. I squeezed his hands back. Trayvon, I just need some time. After a few moments of silence, he nodded his head. Okay, he said, grabbing his baseball cap off of the dresser and clutching it to his chest like it was the only part of me he had left. He walked to the door and turned around. Danny, I love you. I really do. I leaned against my black leather headboard, clutching my sheets to my chest, eyes wide. My gaze was fixed on the figure at the end of my bed. A man, if I could even call him that, sat with his back facing me. 2 deep scars laid parallel to each other, nearly running the length of his spine. Every little muscle in his back was flexed. His head was tilted toward the ground. Danny, he said. I swallowed hard, recognizing Eros's voice, but he didn't turn around, and I didn't know why. I found myself crawling towards him. My fingers grazed against his shoulders, and I wrapped my arms around his torso, my barely covered breasts pressing against his back. His cinnamon scent was overwhelmingly stronger than it usually was. I placed a kiss on his spine between the scars. Think through your decision with Trayvon, he said. I don't want Trayvon. I want you.
This section was removed because it includes an explicit sex scene. Unfortunately, some platforms don't allow such material. To listen to it uncensored, go to reamstories.com/EmiliaRoseAudio and subscribe.
His fingers quickened, and soon my legs were trembling as wave after wave of ecstasy rolled through me.
You've reached the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. To get up to 4 weeks additional uncensored content, subscribe to the podcast at reamstories.com/EmiliaRoseAudio. Due to content restrictions, explicit sex scenes will only be available through Ream. But if you'd like to continue listening to my free episodes, make sure to hit the follow button to receive updates.